Hello, everyone. We want to welcome you to this webinar, how to 8 ways to manage learning projects like a rock star. We're glad that you've taken some time to join us today, and we hope that this will be a really beneficial um, webinar for you. We want to encourage you to participate. Just a quick note: when you have a question, please put it in the Q&A, the question and answer box. And if you have a comment, put it in the webinar chat. But I'm watching both of them, so wherever you put it, we'll see it, and we'll address it. I want to start by giving just a little bit of an introduction to Ingenuiti. Um, Ingenuiti provides three services really to our clients. The first is custom learning design. And so we create learning experiences mostly for Fortune 1000 companies, global Fortune 1000 companies. The second service that we provide is translation and localization. We've been doing that for 20 years, and so obviously globally, organizations that have to look for opportunities to create learning experiences and then translate them. We do translation and localization into over 200 different languages, which is a pretty remarkable thing. And then the third thing that we do is staff augmentation. We've been doing this a long time, and we have placed something like 1,500 different people through staff augmentation services. And by the way, through translation and localization, we've translated, I think, in the last 10 years, well over 1 billion words. And so we've been at this a little while. Sharing their expertise and their experience today are two panelists. So I'm Jerry Zanstra. That's pretty obvious. I sort of look like the guy in the picture there a little bit. Next is Tracy Contrino, and I want to ask her to introduce herself. Tracy, I think you were one of the backup singers in Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Is that right? Given the rock and roll theme?
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
it just it didn't go so well, so I decided to get into project management.
More of an audition than an actual gig, huh? Okay.
Well, that just the road lifestyle wasn't for me.
No, that's true. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Tracy, what you do now and what you've done in the past.
Yes, yeah, happy to do that. Well, after my short stint with Tom Petty, I've been in the e-learning and project management space for about 20 years. Started as a teacher, not with Tom Petty, and then spent half my time in higher ed really helping professors move their content online. And in some cases, also helping departments build online programs. So from there, I moved into the corporate training sphere. I've managed projects in a variety of industries, including financial, automotive sector, life sciences, among others. So I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And Miriam, you and I have been in learning and training a long time. A little of your background. I was trying to think of a band for you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to? I mean,
I thought we were in Heart together. That's what I
I
thought.
thought.
Oh,
it
you
was
guys
Tracy
are in
and I
backup
Heart.
singers for Heart
Yeah,
together.
right.
Okay. I was gonna go Zeppelin the later years, but okay.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah.
that works. I'm a big Pat Benatar fan if we're
Okay.
sticking in those eras, but
Yeah,
Okay.
same.
yeah. So I'm the client success manager here at Ingenuiti, and I, similar to Tracy, started a very long time ago in education. I taught high school. I've spent a lot of time working in learning and development in higher ed and working with small businesses, nonprofits, and in the corporate sector for about the past 20 years. And then here, my privilege is really to work with our clients at the beginning, crafting learning solutions, but then also walking with them through the length of the whole project, making sure they have what they need. And then also working here with Jerry as a sidekick, so to speak.
Yeah, I think I'm the sidekick.
Podcasts, webinars, articles, all those sorts of things. So yeah, it's my privilege to work with a really great team here and the great clients that we have.
Good. Thank you. Well, we're going to start. We're going to get very practical as we move along, but I wanted to start with kind of a philosophy, because I think that philosophy in project management really matters. It's not just a set of skills of moving, players and pieces around a chessboard. There's a philosophy to it. And Tracy, share some thoughts that you have on this.
Yeah. Um, I think that when everyone has a clear understanding of the project, it typically runs much more smoothly. Certainly signs of a well-managed project, make sure it's on time and on budget, making sure the learning objectives are understood and met, to make sure you have an engaged project team. That's for both the client side and internally, and that everyone is overall happy. So it's not to say there won't be speed bumps, but they're much easier to solve if everyone understands what's happening going into the project.
Yeah, sometimes I read a number of books and I constantly read articles on project management. And um, sometimes the piece that's missing is the human being, right? It looks more like you're making adjustments to a machine than the fact that there are real human people here. And there are people on your team, there are people who are doing project management, there are people who are the end users. At the end, there are the learners. And so I like that emphasis on sort of human-centric, people matter, everybody matters in this process. Um, and I think we get a better outcome, but even more importantly, the process of managing a project is more humane. It's the kind of thing you're willing to do again, because people are important. Okay, Brian, yeah, here's a great
Right.
my project management mantra. It all looks good on paper until people are involved, and we also
Me too.
seem to lose sight that a project is a collection of humans. Certainly, Brian, that's the case. And um, again, sometimes you're asking people to be involved in projects that might not, they might be a SME, right? They might not, this might not be a normal part of their workflow. And so
Yes.
you're asking them to do something above and beyond. And if they have a really horrible experience where they're not treated with dignity and respect, chances are when you ask them again, they're not going to want to be involved in that. So yeah, it is a project. Yeah, it's truly a collection of human beings, all pointed at the same goal.
And
Um,
a large part of what I do is client education, because to your point, if it's a subject matter expert that's never done it before, they often aren't. And I understand why. They're not aware of the amount of time it will take them to review materials and get back to you. And they have 100 other things they're
right.
responsible for. And so the last point, identifying problems when they're still small enough to solve, I find clients are super appreciative if I can say, let me help you understand really the amount of time this is going to take, and this is what happens to the schedule if we can't, and let me work with you. But because they just often don't know, and
Right.
so that is the people part of project management that can make things go smoother.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Well, let's dive into some of the specifics here. It's what we call the eight essentials, right? The eight essentials to a well-managed project. And the very first one is to establish project objectives. It seems sort of self-explanatory and self-evident, but there are many projects that are begun and executed, and no one really gave much thought to what they're doing and what what's the objective here other than doing a project. It's the Simon Sinek question, right? Why? What is this thing about? So, Tracy, talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that early on in the project, we certainly aim for project buy-in and an approval of objectives. But as Jerry said, that doesn't always happen. So I look at it in two different ways. I mean, first, if for some reason there is dissent in the ranks, if it's early enough in the project and you're already asking those critical questions, then you can adjust. And
Hmm.
it doesn't mean it won't be a little painful, but it's still early in the project. It's always important for us to ascertain who is reviewing what and at what stage and who's approving. Are they the same people? If not, why? Will the approver need more time if it's a, someone new? So it's really important that we are open with our clients and asking those types of questions. Secondly, I think that it gets a little more difficult if it's further along in the project. And that's when we have that secret stakeholder, as we're saying here.
Yeah.
So you think everything's going along great. And then at a status meeting somewhere, it's announced, we have this brand new SME or an approver or something. And again, you need to make sure you're asking the questions. It's not ideal, for the situation that of your project plan or your milestones. But as Miriam was just saying, making sure that the human element part of it, you're explaining, okay, well, hey, that's all right, but here's what's going to happen to our schedule, and then you just get buy off. So
yeah, the secret stakeholder is interesting. We've seen instances where all of a sudden you're getting feedback from someone you've never heard of, and you're 6 months into a project. You go, wait a minute, who is this person? Well, they're from marketing or they're from legal. They wanted to weigh in on this. They had something completely different in mind. And so even if you work up front to get alignment, and Miriam, I can think of instances where there were 4 or 5 people on the other side of the table that all in their heads thought they were talking about the exact same project, right? And when you start poking around in that and start actually putting it on paper, you find out that those 4 people have 4 very different objectives, even though if you would have asked them, are you aligned? Oh, yeah. We know exactly what we're doing, right? You've seen this too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think it's important that, especially if you're, those of you listening are, you're working with like an internal business unit, right? You may think you know all the stakeholders, but that's not always the case. And so it's just really good to keep asking that all along the way.
Yeah, and then Tracy, last one here. Watch for politics. What do you mean?
That's always a challenge, right? So again, learning that your primary stakeholder needs to share an approval process with another department who's there, that's unengaged, completely unengaged. And it's really good to understand in that case escalation points and making sure that you have good documentation of what's happening, because we as project managers can sometimes get involved in, although tangentially, but still we're involved in what's happening with our projects. So like even a current project right now, we're struggling with the fact that the stakeholder is wonderful. Absolutely. Lots of open communication and everything, but there's conflict with that stakeholder superior. And we hear about that often. And so it's just a matter of making sure that we continue to move forward, that we're asking the right questions about, well, is this going to affect anything, or what else do we need, or how can we support you, so that we minimize politics as much as possible for our clients and then also for our team.
Yeah, and the person that person is reporting to may not understand the learning process at all. Right? That's where they go, well, we need this in 2 weeks. Well, that's not, maybe it's doable, but they don't know all of the steps. They know what they want, but they don't have buy-in to the process, and they don't have firsthand knowledge of the process. So we have thrown in some what do you call those things, Miriam? You call them something, and I'm
Easter
blanking.
eggs.
Easter eggs. We've thrown in some Easter eggs here. So we tried to think a little bit of some rock lyrics or rock references, and we came up with "Won't Get Fooled Again." Anybody throw in the chat? No, who is it? Who's saying? What's the song? It's not called "Won't Get Fooled Again."
And these are all clearly from sort of a certain era. So mostly because we are of a certain era.
We're not dating ourselves. No.
We're not.
Deborah, there you go. Daniel, The Who. Yeah, Aaron, you got it. The Who. And anybody know the song? Anybody know the song name? It's a weird song name. It's Baba O'Reilly. I have no idea
Oh.
why they call it Baba O'Reilly, but that's what they call it. So, well done. There we go. Oh, it's from CIS, really? Or CSI rather? I did not know that. Daniel, you got Baba O'Reilly. Okay. Well done. Well done, people. All right. Well, there's another one coming in slide 2. So the one Roger Daltrey is the front man. Who played bass, Daniel? I'm not even gonna give you a chance to answer it. John Entwistle. So yes, I've seen the Who a couple of times. John, you got it. So essential number 2 really is design a project plan. And again, I think even if you get the objectives right and everybody's got this grand vision for what can happen and it's going to go so great, right? And we're all excited and there's all the enthusiasm and alignment, and then what?
Yep. Well, I think is it Brian who said it earlier? It all looks great on paper. If that isn't the truth. So
Yeah.
obviously our schedule sets us up for success. And that's what drives our project both internally and externally. I mean, I know personally, when I'm drafting my plan, I like to share my milestones with not just the client, obviously, eventually, but first with my team. So it's important that I get them on board, make sure that that they're okay with the situation and milestones, et cetera. Because the last thing you'd want to is any friction on your team, and for them to, a key team member to sit there and say, "Well, I can't make that deadline." That's
Right.
kind of a problem if you're already sharing it with the client.
Right.
So that's certainly important to me. And then I also like to make sure in my schedules that I am transparent as much as possible with all of the things that need to get done. So, an invisible step example for me is one that has to do with audio, right? It's not necessarily anything that drives a project plan, nor is anything that maybe can affect my deadline unless it's forgotten. So I'll put in something like, send audio samples to the client. And I'll also put a deadline in there too, that, approval of talent from the client. And there's not even necessarily predecessors or anything that are connected to it. It's just the deadline in there. Again, if it's forgotten, then we're going to have an issue. Right. Especially if your stakeholder, this would be something that, my luck, you forgot the audio to check it in, you go to confirm, and your stakeholder's out for 4 or 5 days,
Right.
So, and the person covering says, well, I didn't know anything about any audio. I can't make that decision. This person has to sign off on it. So it's just one of those, it's just, it's one of those moments where if you be transparent as much as possible with all the things that you need from both the client, and then make sure your team is aware too.
Yeah, I really like the invisible step thing. I think of quality control, right? A lot of times that gets left, or editing gets left out. Little things that take additional time and they really impact the final product. And I really like your out of office thing, because you have this great plan, but you don't have line of sight to people's calendars always. And you suddenly realize, oh boy, right? 4 days here might equal 6 days at the end, just because the
and a
person
lot of times
and
I'll clarify too, because if during a kickoff, and a lot of people are multitasking. I mean, I would love to say that during my kickoff, everyone is paying attention.
Because you are a rock star. Yeah.
You are.
That's
right.
right.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. But we all know that that's not the case. So if you just ask the general, any out of office time? No, or we'll check calendars, we'll get back to you. So I also like to be very specific about it. I'll say, hey, this includes not just vacations, but conference schedules, retreats, times where your days blocked off because maybe your company has a party or something, and try to make sure that they're thinking all the ways that they can not be available on a milestone date.
Right. Yeah, Michael, you just asked a question. You'll get a link, to the replay. We will definitely we'll share this with everybody when we're done. And Tim has a full explanation here of Baba O'Reilly in the name. And so, Tim, you're either a huge Who fan or you're fantastic with AI. So either one of those is impressive. So Catherine's asking platforms or sites do you use to track projects? That's kind of an interesting question for Ingenuiti. Tracy, you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah, we're a SmartSheet shop. So that's primarily what we use. And it's nice with SmartSheet too, because I have the option of I can download it as an Excel file or PDF to share out with the client. I can also assign access to SmartSheet projects so that the client can just get a link and can see it that way too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Janet,
Yep.
go ahead, Miriam. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, and we're not being paid for that endorsement, but I do really, I'm not the smart sheet or the spreadsheet guru like Tracy is, but one of the things that's so nice with that, and other tools will do this, but it's just the visibility. So from my perspective, I can visibly, I will often do like a new client onboarding, where I'm just helping them understand the process overall, helping them understand, and that timeline thing is such a huge impact. Smart Sheets can show, I can say, look, if you say, I'm going to need an extra day to get this back to you, I can immediately visually, literally slide it, show them, okay, we've added a day, which doesn't sound like much, but now look what happens as that one day cascades across the whole. And I know other tools do that, but I found it's really useful visually to help, whoever I'm working with better understand.
Yeah.
Yes. And I saw, I think it was,
Sorry.
oh, sorry, Jerry.
No, go ahead, Tracy.
I think it was Aaron who said, about Scrum boards. I'm missing the comment here, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can use Smartsheet that way too. I've definitely done that before for larger projects. We had many deliverables. I think it was like 78 deliverables at a very short deadline. And we had a meeting with the client 3 times a week, and internally, pretty much every day we met. And that's exactly what we did. Just big, like Kanban, ticking off things. And the Smartsheet's great for that because it provides you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, I just want to highlight one chat from Janet. Important to note to understand milestone dates from other major projects where the client may be involved as well. Because you may find out that person is carrying like 120% of capacity. And if you don't know that, you're wondering, well, why are they not paying attention? Because they have no attention to pay. Yeah, good. Have you found the best way to share a Smartsheet document? This is Lisa. Do you walk them through a presentation or do you simply send it over to them? Tracy, how do you do that?
It honestly depends on the client.
Okay.
I find that most clients just say, can you just send me it, on an email as an attachment? Or sometimes I'll even say, can you just water it down and just give me the milestone?
The big ones.
What do I have to do? Like, I appreciate that you want to share this huge long schedule for me, but it's overwhelming. Just tell me my review dates and when you need it back.
Okay.
So,
good.
But yeah, I mean, I've done all of them before, whether it's like it's a download as an Excel or PDF. I've also shared out the link. So it really just depends on the client and the project.
Okay. Good. So not having a design plan leads to chaos. Now, Tim, I'm going to be really impressed if you get this quickly. Beware of the freeform jazz odyssey. It's not from a rock song. Anybody know it? Freeform jazz odyssey.
This is very obscure.
It is very obscure, but we have some easy ones too.
We do.
Spinal Tap. Aaron, you got it.
Yep.
Yep. It is a line from one of my favorite stupid, silly movies. Incredibly cleverly done. Spinal Tap. A freeform jazz odyssey is just like craziness, right? There's no plan. Nobody's following any music. Everybody's just sort of playing at the same time. And you hope something comes out of it. That's what happens when you don't have a design, when you don't have a project plan. All right, let's go on to the next one. Communicate effectively. Tracy, walk us through that.
Yeah, definitely anticipating those stakeholder needs, critical. I think that is probably the most difficult thing that we do as project managers, because that goes back to how we opened with the human element, right? It's about being proactive, if I can speak, proactive, anticipating needs and addressing them before anything is happening, ideally. And I think it's something that takes practice. And it's something too that it helps if you have a good relationship with the client. Although sometimes not great relationships also allow you to be proactive in other ways. But the key is, to me, active listening. The more that you can understand client pain points and understand, have some insight into like critical challenges and dynamics, it shows you're paying attention, right? You're not being complacent. I feel like active listening also allows project teams to understand preferences and expectations, styles of learners. And the only way you can get that is through regular communication, asking those questions, the open-ended questions, the how, the who, what. And it really goes a long, long way. I can tell you personally, I lost a client, and the reason was because they said they didn't feel heard. And that it was really, really difficult for me. I mean, obviously for a number of reasons, that's like the worst. That's project management nightmare 101, right? Like losing a client. But it was particularly difficult for me because we were having regular meetings, not just our status meetings, but we were having a lot on one-on-ones. And when what hit the fan, I had to say to myself, what happened, right? What happened? And I realized that it was one where I thought we were communicating well, but obviously she thought it was more transactional. I was missing something. I wasn't actively listening. And looking back and doing a little bit of introspective work, I realized my shortcomings there. Probably missed some of her key pain points, and it was a learning lesson. It really was.
How do you do that? So after the one-on-one, do you follow up? I mean, you have things in writing, and are there sign-offs like, "Yep, I heard the same thing." What you're communicating to me is what I heard, and what I communicated to you. What's that cycle look like?
Yep, ideally, in a perfect world. I mean, documentation is key in our industry. It just it goes so long and for so many reasons. And in that particular case, when I lost the client, not having clear documentation, which was also my other project management sin, was the other issue. I have my entire team supporting me and telling me this, yes, absolutely, this happened when, everyone was on the same page internally.
Right.
But I didn't have the documentation. And so it was a little bit of tail between my legs.
Yeah.
I couldn't, I had to own up to the fact that I had a miss. And I didn't have the documentation, and I had a team who heard the same thing, but at the end, it's my project, my miss. So documentation is the best, and communication.
Aaron's got an interesting point here. Just stay curious longer, right? And avoid the advice giving habit.
Yes, I like that. Yes.
And Aaron, the problem for me is I excel at advice giving long before I really understand what you've even said. Tracy and Miriam, they both worked with me long enough to know. I like to start things like, you know what your problem is. That's right. That's not the right way to start. And Catherine pointing out, always doing email follow-ups is really, really key. Janet, thank you too for summarize and ask. Did we get this? Aaron, you ask about AI. There are times when we will do transcription and because it captures everything, right? And then you can take the transcription and feed it through AI, whether it's Otter or whatever it is, and it'll provide a summary and then bullet points, takeaways, like so-and-so agreed to do this, so-and-so agreed to do that. So there is a way to automate that, and the AI is getting better. So I've been encouraging our team to do that on a regular basis. Take the full transcript, run it through AI, send it through, check it, and it doesn't. It becomes less time consuming, but boy, it's vitally important when you get on step 8. And everybody's got a different idea because nobody remembers accurately what step 8 was going to be.
Yes.
Is a great idea. Yeah.
And I think Catherine, sorry, rock, paper, scissors, Sherry. Catherine's previous comment about it takes so much time. And I think as project managers, that is what always bites us in the butt. Always, right? It's time, because obviously we are geared for time management, but at the same time, we also don't have a lot of it because we're just like go, 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 go. Yep. And I think that the notes are often a place where we're like, oh, we don't need that. It'll be easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you get in a situation that you can't back out of if you don't have the documentation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Catherine, interesting point. Your company won't allow AI, but your workaround is to record the call. There are versions, and again, I'm not as technical as I would like to be, but there are versions of AI that you can keep it from going back out into the Ethernet, right? You can keep the content internally. And so, but we do, security is obviously still evolving and will evolve for a number of years. So, all right. Yeah, recording, several of you is, yeah, Dave is saying you can keep the AI internal. That may be a good solution or a good option for you. Okay, let's, oh, wait. We've got to cover our rock lyric. This is an easy one. It's from a song. Communication breakdown, it's always the same. I'm having a nervous breakdown. Drive me insane. Anybody? Wow, I thought that was an easy one. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Daniel. Yep, Tim, you got it. Zep. Yep, you got it. Good. All right, that was an easy one. Next is yeah, be engaged. I mean, this is kind of a continuation of effective communication. It's right. It's that active listening. It's making sure that you're in the right frame of mind. Tracy, how do you get in the right frame of mind? Because again, I know what you do for a living, and I know all the things. There's a million things being thrown at project managers all the time. How do you like push stuff out of the way and create mental space for that to make sure that you're engaged?
It's just I think again it's learned and it's part of the job. I mean, ensuring that I am paying attention and that I'm not being complacent is the most critical thing for us as project managers, because it's just it's going to drive everything else we do. And certainly with taking notes, and I know we just talked about that, and I saw obviously everyone's chats about AI and all, and we all agree, but you just got to do it. It's whether you're doing this or whether you're getting ready to go on stage and sing, or you're walking out in the field, getting ready to play sports. I mean, it's just you gotta get in headspace. You just do it.
Yeah, you do. And I do a lot of public speaking, and it requires that there's a certain routine, and I follow it every single time, and it's just getting clutter out of the way. You can't be distracted, and for me it's habits. I think this is part of where project management goes from science into art. I think active listening is far more art than, like, people learn the techniques, they get really good at it, and sometimes being engaged means I can hear behind what you're saying to me. So here's what you're saying to me, but here's what I think you really mean, right? And then following up with questions. Miriam, you want to jump in on any of this?
Well, I was just going to say, speaking of working with Tracy, I mean, different companies have different philosophies, obviously, of what the project manager is responsible for. Or, I mean, we've worked with companies, and I know some of you listening, internally, your project managers might have different roles. Sometimes they manage projects they don't even understand a bit of the content or the product that's being made or any of that, but they have their process they follow. But either way, it doesn't matter. Tracy is a great resource. She is always listening, and on the learning side of things, she has the answers, or can say the client said this, or this is what they're thinking, in instructional design language. And I really appreciate that. And so I would just encourage, that whole be engaged part. If you're in a place in a company where maybe you're in the learning space, but maybe that's not really your background. You can pick a lot up by listening and just even by talking with the other people on your team. But that also helps the client feel more confident. I have been on calls with clients where the project manager was clearly just on the call to push the ball forward, and that makes them nervous. But when you have a project manager who can speak authoritatively, can speak intelligently about what's being made and the deliverables, the client, or in case internal business units, it just helps them relax. They feel more confident. They know the project's on track.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I think a lot of this too is, I'm sure it's more of a buzzword for today in business, but it's really true. Emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I have done some courses around that too, and it was really, really eye-opening. And I think in some ways all project managers should probably be aware of emotional intelligence, because it just teaches you a lot of how to listen actively, and even body language, and just respond in a way that will go far with your clients.
So just a few comments. Janet, plan your day, prioritize activities. That sometimes when I have a really important meeting, I won't plan anything for 30 minutes before it, right? So that you can't always do that, but to give yourself a little breathing space to get your mind right, and plan that out. Good call out. Deborah always asks just to check for understanding, making sure I heard you. That's a good thing. And Anna, you had asked a question for people who don't have access to SmartSheet. What are some recommended alternatives for project tracking? You're currently using Excel sheet in OneNote. We will follow up with you, and see if we can come up with some alternatives after our webinar is done. But there are other alternatives for that. There's some tech that you can use. All right, let's look at the rock layer. I think this is an easy one, especially Tim. Yeah, and Daniel, you're gonna get this immediately. Join together. I wish I could sing. I can't sing. I'm willing to sing. Yeah, The Who. Yep. Join together with a band. Be reliable. Number 5. Right. In some sense, this seems so basic, and you're like, really, you have to ensure that you are reliable. What does reliability mean, Tracy? What do you mean by that?
Well, certainly the check marks here on the page, about making commitments, being accessible, establishing relationships. But I think the underlying meaning here is that reliability builds trust, right? And trust is a component of our excellent client experience. If you make it easy for your stakeholders to reach you, and they're more likely to contact you then, which I know I can hear the jokes, but I don't want my clients contacting me. but we're obviously trying to foster that. So, that goes, again, a long way to building that relationship. But I think that this is true even, in our personal lives, right? Like if you know that you need something from someone, and those people you go to regularly for whatever, and they're not going to follow through, right? That they're not going to be available. That there's going to be poor communication, or the result of what you're asking for isn't what you're asking for. I mean, you don't go to those people. You just don't, or you use them sparingly. And that is not what we want. I mean, not that we want that in our personal relationships either, but that's happening in a business relationship. That's a problem. And we, as project managers, need to make sure we avoid it. If it does happen, fix it.
I like your comment, making commitments and keeping them. And I think of that of the person who, is reliable in the fact that they reliably show up 10 minutes late for a meeting. Right? Or they reliably go over the meeting because they didn't have meeting control, because we didn't get through the agenda that we needed it. And it made me think, Tracy, about your comment, or Miriam, maybe a few minutes ago, of emotional intelligence. Just you really have to make clear what you're committed to, and then actually do it. And it's not. My wife and I have 3 boys who are grown now, but I told my boys when they were younger, if you can make commitments and keep them, you'll be 10% above everybody else.
Yeah.
Because it's unfortunately not as common as as Aaron's pointing out. It's not as common as it ought to be. Janet, you make an interesting point here. Learn the preferred communication
Yeah, I was just
method.
gonna, yes, thank you, Jerry, because I was gonna point that out
It's
too.
really,
That's fantastic.
So
Yeah,
important,
yeah.
so important. Go ahead, Miriam. Do you want to make that?
Oh,
What you,
no, I was just gonna say it all depends. I mean, we've used Slack channels sometimes because time was, and not again, or some kind of chat mechanism that could be used externally with the client because time was of the essence. They were willing to respond quickly. We had a good relationship. We just messaged back and forth. Or obviously email, or maybe you're dealing with a client who gets hundreds of emails a day and it's just going to get missed. So how do I figure out the best rhythm to communicate with them?
Yeah.
Yep. It's true. And even in that communication, I think it's really important. Like I can think of one of my primary clients right now who, I know she does not read email. I mean, she says email me, but she doesn't read it. So I need to make sure that my emails are concise, bulleted, and as sparingly as possible. I also know she'll be available by phone if I need to follow up. But those are the kinds of things that, yes, it's important to establish up front. Like, how do you, not just your communication style, but it also goes as you're building that relationship, right? You're going to learn it. You're going to learn how to work with your clients.
Yep.
So,
Janet, interesting point here that ensuring that you understand the ask and the deadline, right? There's a big difference between this day and end of day and
Yes.
and so on. The communication thing is interesting. Chat and Slack I hate because I like
Hey,
email.
we
It
know
might
you
be,
do.
yeah, I know, but I can file stuff, right? I can't file stuff in when I'm searching, when I'm trying to find something. Emails, there's a really convoluted system I have, but it works for me. And it's the yeah. Aaron, I do love a back channel
back
chat.
channel chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And I
funny.
also just saw the comment about how you put your email headers, how you write
Yeah.
them.
Mm,
So important. I do that a lot too.
yeah,
For example, if it is a milestone
yeah,
delivery, I'll put delivery in the header. If I try to put deadlines in there as well, like due,
yeah.
So
Mhm.
yes, very
That's a good
key.
good call out. All right, what's the someone should be able to be reliable. Now, Tim, if you were really showing off, you should be able to know what I'm going to say already. But this is an easy one again for yeah. Really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Chevy trucks is Aaron.
I
That's
was just
right.
going to say that. No
It's
one
an
say
ad for Chevy
commercial.
trucks,
No
but
one say commercials.
yeah, it is I believe written and performed by Bob Seger. So
Yes.
very good and a good song. It's a really good song. So that sort of bleeds right into trust, into building trust. All of these things cascade into each other, and if you take any part of them out, if you take communication out, right, you're never going to get. If you're not reliable, you're never going to build trust. And so, Tracy, talk us through that a little bit. Yeah, your opening line here is a little disconcerting. Assume that stakeholders don't trust you, or the other way around, don't assume that they do trust you, because you're providing a service for them. Talk to us
That's
about
right.
that.
I mean, trust takes time. And I think that that's been an underlying theme through all of our slides so far, right? I mean, we're always going to look for, as project managers, I mean, we should be looking for hints of dissatisfaction. And then also how we opened, looking for that human element. How can we be proactive with that?
Mm,
What are we going to do about it? Obviously, performing honest, candid check-ins with those open-ended types of questions. How are we doing? What can I, how can I assist you? Those types of questions, which aren't always easy to ask either. Um,
right.
Another great one, as we're coming up to milestones, and ask, can I get some feedback? How do you think we're doing so far? Anything else we could do better? So
when you do that, do you have somebody else ask that question? Do you have an outsider ask that question? Or do you just say, hey, I'm just doing a quick, quality check. Where are we, from like the medical thing, right? Smiley face to sad face, where are we on this scale here?
Yeah, I tend to not necessarily do them on my group status calls, but maybe more of a one-on-one touch base. Just be like, before we get off the phone, we'll just ask. Right. So I think that people are more comfortable saying it that way too.
Yeah, I don't think group, right? If there's a group, I have something hard to say to you, I might not say it in a group. I'm more likely to say it in a one-to-one in a conversation. But of course, at that point, you're communicating with me, and I built up a level of trust. Aaron asked an interesting question. Sorry, Alicia asked an interesting question and skipped down. Is it better to ask for feedback mid-project or at the wrap? And I think I know your answer. Tracy and Miriam, how would you answer that?
Yes, I've to both, and it's a different kind, I think, of feedback. So the end is much more of a postmortem, and you can be more detailed, and you can ask, you can really get at a lot of things, because in the middle, you haven't gone to development yet, maybe, or you haven't completed storyboarding or whatever phase you're in. But I've also been burned where we went all the way to the end and then found out the client was unhappy, or, who I'm working with was unhappy over one small thing that, had I just known, I could have tweaked it.
Right.
And they would have been so happy. But those mid-road kind of questions are similar. I think, like Tracy, as a project manager, that's a good sort of neutral party. As client success manager, I mean, I spent many years on instructional design team. So I understand the work that goes into it, the frustration when somebody asks for a small change or the amount of time. But I also understand wanting to keep the client happy, and them, they don't understand the whole process. They don't understand that their ask has a cascading effect. So if you can have a neutral or somebody sort of step in that doesn't have a real vested interest in either side, you can ask some of those more neutral questions in the middle. How, like you said, Tracy, how are you doing? Is there anything we could do to kind of improve moving forward, and just get at little things?
Yeah. That timing question is an interest. I've never liked employee evaluations that come at the end of the year. And I've always told people that report to me. If I have a problem, I'll tell you it immediately. Out of fairness, because at that point you can correct something, or maybe I misunderstood something. That's very possible, right? Saving it all up to the end is what corrective action can anybody, what are they going to do about it? What good does it do them or you at the end? And then Janet, make sure your leadership is kept up to date with the project status, including blockers. Right. There are people that can remove roadblocks. And, it's nice if you know who those are among your clients. I'm cracking up at the image here in the background, because I don't know who the first rock star was to dive off stage and jump into the crowd. I'm not sure how the crowd knew to catch that person. But they figured it out pretty quickly. And so that takes of course it was Iggy Pop, Daniel. You're absolutely right. Yeah, so that's not what or Sid Vicious, sure. Yeah, those guys had no idea what they were doing at the moment. So this was our lyric for this one. This is actually a song title. A Matter of Trust. It's not Sid Vicious. It's not Iggy Pop. It's a little more subdued. Billy Joel. There you go. Tim, you are on, and Becky. All right, and Dave. Yep. All right. Well, let's jump into to see the risk. And this is an interesting one. This is where I think we're back to less science and more art. People that have done this for a while can see that this little thing that looks like a grain of sand ends up being 100 pounds of concrete not too far down the road. So yeah, talk us through this, Tracy.
Again, everything that we've been discussing so far. So The client looks to us to manage risk. And if you are engaged, you are actively communicating, you're building that relationship. Ideally, you're going to see the risk. But I mean, sometimes risk comes without warning.
Yeah.
And then I think for us, it's incumbent that we are quick in our responses, that we have a mitigation plan, and we swiftly adapt.
So
That's
kind of stop what you're doing, focus, figure out a way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And sometimes the client is also taken by surprise with the risk. And again, will look to us. Not that they've engaged us necessarily as consultants, but this is also where the project management role is consultative.
Yeah.
And that's also another opportunity for you to build more trust. And if you make that messy situation right,
Yep.
and you also do it in a way that maybe is financially feasible for them,
Right.
you just, you might be getting long-term relationship status there. So
Well, and
that's more business.
Janet's pointing out an interesting thing: document the known risks up front, and that oftentimes that's timing, because people come with unrealistic, right? That the timeline's a risk. It's just the way you've laid it out. But then there are the things that as you mentioned and Janet is mentioning, the unknown risks, right? That's the oops, we're merging, or oops, this division is being renamed and everything is changing, right? In the middle. And Janet gives the example, right? Access to SMEs who respond in a timely manner is critical. That's always a risk. I mean, you love SMEs for what they know, right? But how, and again, in fairness to them, they have a lot of things on their plates. Deborah, project charters are a helpful way to timeline, resources, assumptions, risk. We build all that out as we head into a project, so that we can see at least what right? You're never going to assume you know it all, but at least the known risks, which is key. I'm not going to tell you what song here, but don't put it up yet, Scott. I'm just going to tell you, see the risk. It's a song by Molly Hatchet. See if anybody can guess that. Tim, reach way back in there. It's in there somewhere. What song from Molly Hatchet would you have chosen if you had to choose a song lyric for Seeing the Risk? Flirting with Disaster. Tim, you are the man. That's the song that we have listed right there. So well done. Last but not least, quality assurance. Obviously, you can have a great project, everybody's aligned, you've communicated, you've done all of these things, and quality slips, right? And you end up in a bit of a disastrous place. Tracy, talk us through this.
Yeah. This is always a challenge, but I think that we just need to go that extra mile for delivering error-free draft and final projects. Obviously, that's going to help build trust, but providing timely and accurate reports to stakeholders is also really important, and highlighting achievements. And if we do encounter QA issues during a project, which happens, obviously, it happens. I think that it's really important as part of a quality insurance initiative is to highlight how it was fixed and what we did and how quickly we solved it. It's also important to highlight why it happened, because sometimes it's not our fault, but we have to kind of pretend it is, or go along. So, but finding that politically, sensitive way of saying, well, but it was kind of really your fault in a presentation, and saying, this is how we worked collaboratively, this is what we did, and this is how we fixed it. All really important.
Yeah. Jan, an interesting point, right? There's always there's almost always multiple client reviewers, right? When you're working with somebody, who's the one source of truth, and that's something we establish early on, right? Early on, we say, okay, if it's possible to have all the feedback come through one person, and that person sort of, because sometimes you get comments and they're the exact opposite. Well, okay.
Yeah.
how do you know,
Absolutely.
right? And so there's a single source of truth, and the final say person that maybe not everybody agrees, but this person agrees,
Mhm.
and they've made they've made the decision. I find too, Tracy, something that you mentioned to the trust thing. If you find small errors early, you're eroding trust immediately. So if there's spelling errors, typos, or some misunderstanding in alpha, as we move into beta, I'm getting more nervous. And when I get to final and gold, I'm going to be really nervous because of those early on errors. So, quality checking all along the process is really, really important.
Yes.
Final song is Peace of Mind.
Mhm.
Maybe not as well known as some of the others. The band is in one of my favorite bands um, growing up. But anybody have any idea who performed Peace of Mind? Jake Isles? No. Well, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, he might have.
It could be. We had somebody else in mind. Well, we were just a band out of Boston. It's
Yeah.
Boston. Yeah. Yeah. Which was fantastic. Just a couple of things going forward. Just, we're going to be sending you an evaluation. We do take those evaluations very seriously, and we look for ways to improve. We want to be continuously improving in the webinars because we think of your time as a gift to us, and we want to make sure that we're using it the very best way that we can, and that these sessions are informative and useful to you. So please fill that out. Any
Mhm.
final questions or comments from anyone? We do have another, we'll let you know this, but we have a webinar coming up in early June, and it'll be Miriam and I on doing a needs analysis and how that works. So we'll send you information when we have a place to sign up for that. But any other questions that we missed? Yeah, Tim, we'll get into needs analysis. That's a big one. That's a really
Mhm.
big one. Good, good.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you, everybody.
Yeah, everybody,
Thank
thanks
you.
so much. And Tracy, thank you for sharing your
Mm,
experience and wisdom. And Miriam, thank you for
for
your
sure.
experience and your wisdom, and both of you willing to do this. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Have a wonderful morning or evening or day, wherever you are in the world today. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.